Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain is a very distinguished veteran of the Indian Army. He needs no introduction, but he is the former GOC of 15 Corps and understands that territory of Srinagar, Leh, Ladakh, the entire territory of Jammu Kashmir that's in the news right now very well. Sir, thanks so much for speaking to me. First and foremost, we speak on a day when there's been some de-escalation, or at least some agreement towards de-escalation between the Indian and Chinese side after a very long set of discussions yesterday and today. How do you view that, sir?
See, Gauri, look at it from the aspect of the backdrop of events which are happening yesterday, today. We've got the Raksha Mantri in Moscow, along with the Chinese Defense Minister also witnessing the parade, the Russian parade, and our Defense Minister will have interaction with the Russian Defense Minister too. Both Indian and Chinese contingents are marching in the parade. Most people are not aware of it. Number two, the Foreign Minister, our Indian External Affairs Minister, Mr. Jaishankar, he has just spoken today at the RIC, the Russian, India, China Foreign Affairs, the foreign ministers meet. And on the military plane, you have got 11 and a half hour meeting which took place at Chushul, Moldo, which is the meeting point. Started at 11:30 yesterday and almost ended at 12 o'clock at night. General Harinder Singh, the Corps Commander, was meeting there. And a statement for after it was held in a very conducive kind of an environment, mutual respect for each other, and they have come to an agreement, some kind of an agreement. Of course, nothing has been put out yet, that there will be a disengagement. That's the word which I use, disengagement. Now, there are 2-3 things that we have to see. At the diplomatic level, at the political level, which is what the Raksha Mantri is doing also, efforts are going on at the back to ensure that India's capacity building is continuing. Acquisitions, etc. Allocations of money have been done. Budgeting has been done. The greater powers have been given to the commanders. The Foreign Minister, External Affairs Minister of ours is ensuring that there is no escalation in the diplomatic domain, although he has conveyed some very, very strong messages. And in the military domain, what is very clear is that trust is something which has absolutely evaporated. We used to trust each other to some extent. China is not a country to be trusted otherwise. It's not a rule-based country. It's not a country which believes in implementing what it agrees anywhere, and we've got n number of examples of that. So with all this keep things in mind, it's a very nebulous kind of a situation. We are preparing ourselves for the worst, but taking all the steps necessary to ensure that there is a disengagement and de-escalation. Now, how quickly will this take place on ground is something for us to discuss in further questions. But to my mind, at the moment, everything is happening in an environment and a situation of complete mistrust. So, one meeting alone is not going to do what they intend to do. Yeah.
So many people have said that, a similar exercise was carried out before the 15th of June clashes that took place. The 6th of June exercise, it was also aimed to sort of bring down the tensions. Then it was not disengaging, then it was de-escalation. Now, of course, we are talking about disengagement. So should we put any sort of premium on the talks that have happened so far, or do you think it's too premature to expect something significant to come out of this?
See, we have to always, in situations such as this, the military, what it loves to do is to carry out an appreciation of the situation and how you always try, and particularly an intelligence appreciation. And you do an intelligence appreciation by putting yourself in the shoes of your enemy, of your adversary. So you look at it, you put yourself in the shoes of the Chinese, the theater commander of the Chinese there. What may have been his tasking? His tasking was probably to carry out certain maneuvers of the military, which means essentially some training maneuvers which were done in depth and subsequently move up to the line of actual control, their perceptions of the line of actual control, and start domination, start messaging to say that the good old claims of theirs are no longer there. They've got fresh claims on the line of actual control. So now you start coercing India, and you start a strategic messaging to India to say that to dent India's strategic confidence. You know, they are seeing that India is developing at a very rapid pace, developing a strategic confidence. Our economy, at the moment temporarily down because of COVID-19, was up on the up throughout. The nation was doing well. We were greatly respected in the international community. People were wanting to have strategic alliances, strategic relationships with us. All this is not making China very comfortable. And therefore, China do a strategic messaging to actually dent our strategic confidence, our ability to handle the world affairs, to handle China and handle Pakistan, handle Gilgit-Baltistan, the area of Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and all this was a part of the grand design that the Chinese PLA wanted to do, and what China as a nation wanted to do through the PLA. Have they achieved all this? I don't think so. They have, in fact, the opposite has happened. After Galwan, particularly, the strategic confidence of India has gone up. You're finding the whole country has come together, condemned China, and there is complete unity as far as the message to China is concerned. You're seeing the kind of passions at the funerals of some of our martyrs, and the kind of sloganeering which has happened. Probably China didn't cater for this. It sometimes leads me to believe that maybe the Galwan incident wasn't an incident which was really planned and it just happened. But that's a separate issue. We need to analyze it separately. So having put all this together, I do feel that these talks are good. First of all is because both sides are understanding that there is a need to disengage and de-escalate. And the Chinese, for one, are definitely feeling it, that they probably crossed the Rubicon and that the situation may have gone completely outside their control and they need to pull back and reassess. So I think there will be a couple of more meetings of this kind through the next 2 months probably. Disengagement will not happen overnight. There will be a lot of give and take on disengagement, and particularly in this Pengongso area. I suspect in the area of the Galwan, probably you'll have a faster disengagement because no one wants to risk something happening there again. But Pengongso and other areas, it will take a certain amount of negotiations before final withdrawals take place. Having said that, the point on this issue, but both sides have ramped up their capability to engage each other in a war-like situation at very short notice. The Chinese mobilized a very large force into their side of the plateau, the Indian side. The Indian army has also mobilized. We were hearing about tanks and BMPs being lifted by aircraft to Leh. So all this happening in the backdrop, while the talks are also going on. So lots of people are wondering why are the talks going on, and at the same time you've got all this happening in the backdrop. Both these things will continue simultaneously. And you have time till November. You have time till November because this is the campaigning season, and November the heavy snow starts coming, December starts coming. Then it becomes difficult and probably you will find a pullback to renegotiate ultimately in the next season.
So the next 5 months, General Hasnain, would be really crucial for both India and China in terms of our ties, and India to be able to further cement its position amongst the global community of nations. I want to ask you this, as somebody who understands that terrain very well, I want to ask you, there's been so much of back and forth, बहुत कुछ लिखा गया है कि इससे किस soldiers को ज़्यादा फायदा होता है, ये terrain में हिंदुस्तानी soldiers को, भारतीय soldiers को ज़्यादा फायदा मिलेगा या नुकसान मिलेगा, इसके बारे में आप बताइए क्योंकि आप उस geography को, उस terrain को अच्छे से समझते हैं.
कौन से soldiers को आपने पूछा? Soldiers को advantage मिलता है?
Indian soldiers.
अच्छा, देखिए, ये सवाल बहुत दिलचस्प सवाल है. यस, टेरेन वहां का ऐसा है कि वो टिपिकल टिबेटन प्लेटो है. लद्दाख में ले भी प्लेटो है. उसके बाद ले के बाद एक रेंज आती है, उसको कहते हैं लद्दाख रेंज. लद्दाख रेंज से आप उतरते हैं तो आप पेंगोंगसो की तरफ जाते हैं, और पेंगोंगसो के ऊपर नॉर्थ वेस्ट के ऊपर काराकोरम रेंज है। काराकोरम रेंज के उस पार, पेंगोंगसो के उस पार पूरा प्लेटो फ्लैट ओपन प्लेटो है। तो इसलिए चाइना को एक डिस्टिंक्ट एडवांटेज मिलता है मोबिलाइजेशन में, क्योंकि फ्लैट ओपन टेरेन से मोबिलाइज करता है और उसका इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर काफी डेवलप हुआ है। वेस्टर्न हाईवे जो है उसको बनाया है, वहां से अपने टिबेटन प्लेटो से लेकर और जिनजियांग तक जो बनाया है, काशगर तक बनाया है, ये पूरा जो है बड़ा एक मेजर एडवांटेज देता है चाइना। और हमारे तरफ प्रॉब्लम ये है कि लाइन ऑफ एक्चुअल कंट्रोल के किस तरफ, हमारे तरफ एक तो ये इलाका है पेंगोंगसो का और चुशूल का, जाता है डुंगटी तक, डुंगटी से आगे डेमचौक तक, ये फ्लैट ओपन इलाका है। ये ऐसा एरिया है जहां पर टैंक वॉरफेयर भी हो सकता है, मैकेनाइज्ड वॉरफेयर भी हो सकता है, इसी के लिए वहां टैंक्स ले जाए गए हैं। मगर जब पीछे, जब आप थोड़ा नजदीक आते हैं लद्दाख रेंज के, पेंगोंगसो से थोड़ा पीछे आते हैं, तो ये इलाका हाई एल्टीट्यूड इलाका और बड़ा ब्रोकन हाई एल्टीट्यूड टेरेन है, पथरीला इलाका है। यहाँ डिफेंड करना बहुत आसान है, ऐसी कोई मुश्किल नहीं है यहाँ पर डिफेंड करना, और हमारे लिए कुछ हद तक काफी एडवांटेज हो जाता है इस इलाके में डिफेंड करना। मगर मैं समझता हूं ऑन बैलेंस अगर देखा जाए तो दोनों तरफ को अपने एडवांटेजेस डिसएडवांटेजेस हैं। हमारा सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है मोबिलाइज करना अपने इलाके, अपने देश के अंदर से, अपने प्लेन्स के इलाके से, पठानकोट, उधमपुर, ऐसी जगहों से ऐसी जगहों से ट्रूप्स को ले जाना, इक्विपमेंट को ले जाना, वॉर फाइटिंग मटेरियल को ले जाना और लद्दाख रेंज के पार डालना, ये एक बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज बन जाता है। तो मैं समझता हूं ऑन बैलेंस चाइना को डेफिनेटली मोबिलाइजेशन का एडवांटेज है, हमको डिफेंस और वॉर फाइटिंग में डिफेंस का काफी हद तक।
How do you see those videos that are coming out? One is the Chinese propaganda machinery. Second is the reality on ground. You know, how completely far away is the reality on ground where Indian soldiers are very successfully sending out a message to the Chinese soldiers as against the propaganda machinery of Beijing, which is working overtime. How do you see those?
See, Gauri, before these videos started coming out this time, my perception and impression about the People's Liberation Army and their influence operations and information warfare capability was of a very high order. I used to always think that this is one army which recognized this need and necessity to train themselves in very, very early. 27 years ago, 1993, they came out with a doctrine called War Under Informationized Conditions. In 2003, they came out with a new doctrine called the Three Strategies. थ्री स्ट्रैटेजीज में इनका मतलब था कि मीडिया वॉरफेयर, साइबर वॉरफेयर और साइकोलॉजिकल वॉरफेयर और लीगल वॉरफेयर, मतलब ये कंबाइन करना चाह रहे थे ये तीन वॉरफेयर्स अलोंग विद द कोर्सिव पावर ऑफ मिलिट्री मनूवर के टैंक ले गए आप या बड़े कोई फॉर्मेशंस को डिप्लॉय कर दिया और साथ में इन चीजों को इस्तेमाल कर दिया। मगर मैं बड़ा डिसअपॉइंट हो गया पीपल्स लिबरेशन आर्मी के साथ। पिछले 3-4 दिन में इनके पे जो वीडियो देख रहा हूँ, ये तो टिकटॉक से भी बदतर है, मैं समझ।
Yes.
I found, for example, they put out a video showing the ability of the PLA soldiers to strip a rifle and put it together, I think, in 1 minute.
Yeah,
and
with their eyes,
blindfolded, yes. ये एक्सरसाइज मैं 48 साल पहले करता था। 48 years ago when I was a cadet, I could do it faster than this. और उसी वक्त जैसे ये ट्विटर पर आया, किसी ने सीआरपीएफ की लेडीज बटालियन जो होती है, विमेन बटालियन, उनका एक वीडियो दिखाया जिसमें वो ब्लाइंड फोल्ड करके और वो तकरीबन 29-30 सेकंड्स में स्ट्रिप करके दोबारा लगा रही थी राइफल को। तो what I'm saying is a very unprofessional effort, and information warfare में unless you know the culture, you have to know the culture, you have to know the capability, you have to know the language, बहुत psychology of the people। मेरे ख्याल में चाइना में ऐसी कोई समझ ही नहीं है इंडिया के बारे में। और ये the fact that they have not admitted their casualties
Yeah.
The fact that they are hiding their casualties, आप उसका बरखलाफ यहाँ देखिए भारत में कैसे जगह जगह बिहार, उड़ीसा, तमिलनाडु, हर जगह, पंजाब, there have been state funerals.
Yes.
People have attended them.
Yes.
There have been tricolors everywhere, and there is a sense of national honor and national pride at admitting our casualties, not hiding our casualties. It just shows what the difference between the two states. ये एक democracy है with the people who are peace loving, who don't want to go to war, but they love their soldiers and they will do anything for their soldiers. उधर एक वो है दूसरा देश है, कम्युनिस्ट देश है, वर्चुअल डिक्टेटरशिप, उसका रूलर एक ऐसा है जो जिंदगी के लिए अपने आप को प्रेसिडेंट बना के बैठा हुआ है और अपने अपने कैजुअलिटीज को नहीं एडमिट करना चाहता, नेशनल टेलीविजन पे नहीं दिखाना चाहता. मतलब two completely opposite pictures are emerging. And if China thinks that it is achieving anything in terms of influence, it is actually telling the world what a closed society it is and what an unethical society it is. I think exactly the opposite message is going around to the whole world.
One very important, in fact, two very important issues I want to ask you, sir, is today is also the day when Army Chief is in Ladakh to discuss and take a status check as far as how we are in terms of preparations. Parallelly, the decision taken by at the highest levels that if needed, then our soldiers can also fire. That's also an extremely important decision. How do you see these two things in the larger context of Indo-Chinese reset of relations?
The presence of the Army Chief in Ladakh obviously has tremendous significance. Number one, symbolically, because he is going there to be with his troops, with his commanders. He's going to lend an ear to everyone to listen to them, and he's also equally going to influence their thinking, tell them, give them directions based upon his own experience. And he's just come out of an Army Commanders Conference, which has just ended yesterday. And from that, a lot of things would have emerged. Discussions would have taken place between senior commanders. Some coordination would have taken place. All this will be probably conveyed. Very importantly, General Naravane started his visit to Ladakh by visiting the base hospital of 14 Corps.
Yes.
Very important message. Do you find anyone from the People's Liberation Army ever visiting their own soldiers who are casualties? And the whole thing starts from there. Sensitive messaging, going to the people, checking up on them, what exactly happened, giving a pat on the back. That's a very important thing for a soldier coming from his chief. So on one plane, this is what is happening. On the second side, he has ramped up the capability, moved up mobilized formations which are there, moved up tanks and PMPs into that area, which means he has given 14 Corps all the wherewithal and the capability they need to conduct operations there. And the last thing, very importantly, is this decision that nothing will hold you back.
Yes.
You can fire at will. That does not mean that you start firing andhadhun jisko kehte hain. You don't start firing out of something like that. But calibrated, sensible, very, very mature decision making ke saath, if our patrols are run up into situations in which they are under intense pressure and they are under life-threatening situations, then there is no holding them back from firing in self-defense and firing at us, right? So these are the kind of things which are very, very important for the top military leadership to convey. And you can see, if you sum it up for you, a very important symbolic aspect of visiting the hospital, a very important aspect of meeting the senior commanders and conveying the mind and listening to them, visiting the field areas. Tomorrow by helicopter, probably he'll visit Pangong Tso, he'll visit Galwan, and he'll meet the men on the ground. The fact that the chief has come from Delhi is a message by itself. And lastly, changing the rules of engagement based upon the requirements of the situation.
And finally, two questions I want to ask you is one about the role in terms of Russia? I know it's a larger diplomatic strategic issue, but nevertheless, it comes down to military engagement as well, as is evident right now. How significant do you think could be the role that a player like or a country like Russia could play? In the last couple of years, there's been a complete revisiting of their ties with Beijing. Moscow-Beijing ties have been completely revisited. And here is a country who still supplies us about 60 to 70% of our defense equipment. We need it for our spare parts, so on and so forth. So how do you see the role of Russia in this entire equation?
Russia is for India one of the most important countries. So while we continue to pursue a very strong relationship with the United States and the Western powers, which is also necessary, which lends itself to the basic Indian foreign policy, which is centered these days on what is called multilateralism, which means you don't become a part of any single group. You be in engagement with different groups, and your interests are what are most important. Your interests are played to your liking with all these different groups. Now, by entering into a strategic partnership with the United States, it doesn't mean that you box yourself out from a relationship with Russia. Or that by having a relationship with China, you box yourself out of a relationship with the United States. Importance of India's geostrategic position is such that every nation would want good relations with India. The Chinese themselves cannot but have good relations with India. After all, the Indian Ocean dictates a very major part of what happens to the Chinese economy in the future. All the sea lines of communication are from here. 80% of their traffic, their energy traffic goes from here. 80% of their completed goods, manufactured goods, go in containers from here. So they can't wish away India like this. They can keep pressurizing us on the Himalayan belt in this manner. So Russia for us is so important because it's one of the few countries from which we have had an assured supply chain of our wherewithal, our military wherewithal. Number two, geostrategically, Russia's location is such that it influences Central Asia. It influences the area of Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan, which is a very important area for us. That's the area from which all this march of radicalism is taking place, which ultimately ends up manifesting in terror activities through Pakistan and things like this. If we don't want through our actions to push Russia into a complete embrace and a hug with Pakistan, we don't want to have a Russia-China-Pakistan relationship rather than a Russia-India-China relationship. So I think in the entire matrix of this game, Russia is a very important country, and there could have been a better decision than to send the Raksha Mantri to attend Russia's
victory parade,
which is such an important, and also having a delegation from India there. The S-400 system, which we bought from Russia for $5 billion, one of the world's state-of-the-art air defense equipment. It's important and it's necessary that it must fetch up early, because it will actually be a great force multiplier when it particularly comes to collusive threats emerging from China and Pakistan in an area like Ladakh.
So, finally, I want to ask you this, that it's been 4 days since the Prime Minister said on national TV that no post has been given, no area of India's territory has been taken by the Chinese. There have been a lot of strategic experts, some geostrategic analysts who've said that there is ambiguity simply because of some inconsistencies between what the MEA has said, what the army has said, what the Prime Minister is saying. Do you think there is a scope of ambiguity right now simply because of those concerns that Chinese may have come too far inside?
This issue arose about 4 years ago, I am aware. Yeah. But it's been set aside, it's been put to rest today. And I think there was fair clarification from the PMO, which clarified almost everything. And to put it in a nutshell for your viewers, I would only say that perceptional issues do come up in an area like the line of actual control where there is nothing delineated, there's nothing demarcated, there are no maps existing which are of a common understanding. What we say is the line of actual control. The Chinese don't say what they say, we don't say. So in a situation like this, and particularly in the context of Galwan, the Prime Minister spoke essentially in the context of Galwan. This meeting, the all-party meeting, was called in the context of Galwan and the loss of our 20 very, very brave soldiers. So when this whole thing was going on, the statement given by the Prime Minister obviously related to something which was to do with Galwan.
Yeah.
And in Galwan, I don't think, I have not been to this ground, but as far as I know the alignment of the line of actual control, I don't think any ground has been lost. We have not gone that side, they have not come this side. But in the melee that happened on the night of 15th, 16th of June, obviously our troops have crossed over, their troops have crossed over. This kind of a thing can happen on the line of actual control. But in the morning at 7 o'clock, when the Chinese probably sent a message of looking for stabilization and regaining of control, etc., it was crystal clear that our soldiers were on our side, their soldiers were on their side, and that is what was being referred to, and that is what was briefed to the Prime Minister. Related to the Pangong Tso, related to other areas, it is very clear that even the Corps Commander on the 6th of June had very clearly said that disengagement was taking place primarily in Galwan, it was taking place in Hot Spring, and it was taking place in the Demchok area. They had particularly mentioned that as far as Pangong Tso is concerned, there will be more negotiations for that. So I don't think anyone who was briefing the Prime Minister or speaking to him would have even referred to Pangong Tso because it was out of context completely.
Yes.
I think in a time such as this, we should be having greater political consensus. And maybe overlook anything which happens. There will be a perceptional issue, someone not understanding it. And I would strongly recommend that the media must also act as such to facilitate this. A better understanding, better political consensus. Let me tell you, when a nation has political consensus, it's a force multiplier for the army. Because behind them, they know that everyone is unified. Otherwise, if there is political divisiveness behind, then even the soldiers feel that demoralized that their actions which are going on, those are being politicized in the rear areas.
We got to keep our men's josh high. I cannot agree more with you, sir. As we wrap this up, I must ask you about what you wrote today. You wrote about the aspect of Pakistan as well. आपने उसका भी एक mention किया कि आगे कुछ हफ्तों में हमें पाकिस्तान और चीनी जो सांठगांठ है लद्दाख एरिया में, सियाचिन एरिया पे, उस पे भी हमें बहुत ध्यान देना चाहिए. एक आखिरी सवाल मैं उस पे आपसे पूछूंगी, आपको क्या लगता है उस विषय में और उस स्थिति में हमारी रणनीति क्या होनी चाहिए?
देखिए, जब से खास तो ये तो हमको मालूम है कि चाइना और पाकिस्तान के बीच में एक बहुत स्पेशल रिलेशनशिप है, स्ट्रेटेजिक रिलेशनशिप है, जिसको कहते हैं हायर देन द स्काईज एंड डीपर देन द ओशंस. बहुत अजीब तरीकों से इसको डिस्क्राइब किया जाता है. बट देयर इज नो डाउट अबाउट इट, इट्स गॉट अ हिस्टोरिसिटी बिहाइंड इट. राइट फ्रॉम द 60s शक्सकम वैली जब पाकिस्तान ने चाइना को दी थी काराकोरम का रोड बनाने के लिए, तब से ये स्ट्रेटेजिक रिलेशनशिप कायम है. पाकिस्तान का न्यूक्लियराइजेशन जो है पूरा चाइना के बेहस पे ही हुआ है, चाइना के सपोर्ट के साथ हुआ है. और जब से खास तौर पे गिलगिट बाल्टिस्तान का इशू ज्यादा आ गया है फोकस में, और पिछले साल जब 5 अगस्त के बाद जब इंडिया ने आर्टिकल 370 को एब्रोगेट किया, एक लहर सी चल गई जिससे कि लगा कि इंडिया की जो स्ट्रेटेजिक कॉन्फिडेंस है ऑफ डीलिंग विद जम्मू एंड कश्मीर हैज गॉन अप मैनीफोल्ड. एंड उसमें फिर हमारे स्टेटमेंट्स भी आए कि गिलगिट बाल्टिस्तान भी हम कश्मीर का हिस्सा है, जायज हिस्सा है, उसको भी हम अपनी तरफ लेंगे, पाकिस्तान ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर को भी. इससे जो है एक मैसेज जाने लगा पाकिस्तान को, मैसेज ऑफ वरी, और साथ में चीन को भी, क्योंकि आफ्टर ऑल गिलगिट बाल्टिस्तान के थ्रू ही चाइना पाकिस्तान इकोनॉमिक कॉरिडोर जाता है. ठीक है, और वो बेल्ट एंड रोड इनिशिएटिव का प्रॉब्ली फ्लैगशिप प्रोजेक्ट है चाइना पाकिस्तान इकोनॉमिक कॉरिडोर. तो इस वरी के साथ ये तो ऑलमोस्ट सर्टेन है कि जो चाइना कर रहा है अभी लद्दाख में, उसका एक स्ट्रेटेजिक कनेक्ट जो है वो पाकिस्तान के साथ है। और वो आज नहीं, आज तो शायद पुल बैक करके, डिसएंगेज करके स्टेबलाइज कर दें हम, मगर ये इशू खत्म नहीं होगा यहाँ। ये अगले साल या उसके बाद या अगले 5 साल में कभी ना कभी दोबारा उभरेगा ये, और पाकिस्तान इसको उठाता रहेगा, उछालता रहेगा, बिकॉज ये एक तरीका है जिससे कि वो भारत को, इंडिया को प्रेशर के नीचे, कोर्शन के नीचे रखे रहे। और डुअल फ्रंट इंडिया के लिए, इंडियन आर्मी आर्म फोर्सेस के लिए एक डुअल फ्रंट बनाकर रखे, ताकि हमारी आर्मी जो है, एयरफोर्स जो है, वो डिवाइड होकर नॉर्दर्न और ईस्टर्न बॉर्डर्स पर भी और वेस्टर्न बॉर्डर्स पर भी जो है उसकी फोकस जो है वो जाने लगे। मैं आखिर में यह कहूंगा कि शायद हमने इस प्रोग्राम में और ज्यादातर प्रोग्राम्स में एक चीज शायद ज्यादा बात नहीं की है, वो है मैरीटाइम जोन। मैं समझता हूं कि भारत की खास ताकत या पोटेंशियल जो है वो एक्चुअली मैरीटाइम जोन में है, और पहचान हमारी स्ट्रेटेजिक कम्युनिटी को और ज्यादा होनी चाहिए, और हमें अपने नेवल स्ट्रेंथ, मैरीटाइम पावर को बढ़ाना चाहिए, क्योंकि इंडियन ओशन जो है वो वर्चुअली आप देखिए तो इट इज डोमिनेटेड बाय इंडिया। स्टेट्स ऑफ मलाका से लेकर और पर्शियन गल्फ तक देखिए तो कोई एंट्री ही नहीं है पूरे इंडियन ओशन के अंदर जो हम कंट्रोल नहीं कर रहे हैं जिसको। तो उसकी वजह से मैं समझता हूं कि ये इसकी स्ट्रेटेजिक मैसेजिंग जरा भारत की तरफ से कुछ ज्यादा जानी चाहिए, चीन के लिए, पाकिस्तान के लिए।
जी बिल्कुल, उम्मीद है इस विषय पर और इस दिशा में सरकार आगे काम करेगी। जनरल हसनैन, थैंक यू सो मच, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हमसे बात करने के लिए और व्यूअर्स से बात करने के लिए मेरे सारे सोशल मीडिया पे। थैंक यू सो मच फॉर टेकिंग आउट द टाइम। होपफुली we'll have a conversation once again when things become even more normal going forward.
Thank you so much.